Losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it. If you got a story, we don't care if it's happy or gory, so come share your losing it story with us. Hi guys, welcome to Losing It with Nelsie Spencer, the podcast where guests come on and tell a losing it story. I am here with Ronnie Whaley, my wonderful partner and producer, the bearded one. Hello, darling.
Hello. I'm the bearded one, yes.
You are the bearded one. You are all knowing.
Yeah, all knowing of beards. Yes.
How the heck are ya?
I'm good. You know what I was thinking about? How you telling that story about you murdering the little chickens or little birds?
Thank you for putting it that way. Thank you for using that verb.
Oh, okay. All right.
I did.
Ending their lives. I don't know.
Can we call it manslaughter? Can we just call it manslaughter? Wait, bird slaughter. Birds. Oh, that doesn't sound better, does it? Yeah, I killed him.
That reminded me of what we have in the Philippines called balut. Have you heard of this? Balut. What it is. Can
you spell it? Spell it for me.
BALUT.
Okay.
So yeah, what it is it's an egg. It's a fertilized egg that's been boiled in vinegar, and then you eat it. and it's very popular in the Philippines, and it's like a really popular thing that tourists try too, especially since it's like the crazy thing that tourists try in this new country. It's not like we eat it all the time, but people do like to eat it a lot. But yeah, it's basically a half. It's a dead. It's
a bird fetus. It's a bird fetus.
Yes, it is a bird fetus. That's what it is.
A bird fetus in the shell.
In the shell. So like it's in the egg. Then it's been boiled, and then you crack it open, and then you like drink it. You drink like the juices of it.
God, that is so disgusting.
Yeah. And then you eat the stuff inside. Yeah, I've never eaten it just because I couldn't eat it, but a lot of people eat it. People love it.
You've never eaten it because you have a soul. Because you have a soul. That's why you've never eaten it.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely not eaten that.
Oh, I'm judging. I'm judging way too much, aren't I? Jesus. Oh my God. I don't know. It's hard being vegan in a carnivore world. I got to say that. and I'm like I'm vegan light, you know what I mean? And that anyway. Wow. So you've never eaten it? That's good. I'm glad.
I've never eaten it.
How about your family? If people in your
my mom loves it.
In your family
my mom loves it. My dad couldn't eat it, but my mom loves it.
Yeah. Well, your dad's American and your mom's Filipino, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's part of it, I think. It's a culture, like your mom's more culturally attuned to it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, it's a Filipino thing, so like she's really into it. I just couldn't do it. But there's also something that I couldn't eat. Is also these things called they're blood cubes. So they're like,
oh God!
Have you heard of this? Do you know what this is?
I don't. I think you just told me what it is. It's blood in the shape of a cube. Am I right?
Yes, and then you barbecue it. Yeah, I just can't eat that stuff. Yeah,
what is wrong with people?
I don't know. People really love it though. Like I don't know why. People just can't get enough of it.
Oh my God!
I couldn't touch it.
Oh, that's just gross. That's gross. But I've always been a little light on the adventurousness. Like I have a friend, one of my best friends, Kate. I remember going to LA and her taking me to some hole in the wall sushi place. And this was like decades ago. And she's having urchin roe, which I mean, everybody does it now. But at the time it was like, wait a minute. First of all, urchin, no thank you. Second of all, like sea urchin, Yeah. Second of all, the roe, like I'm going to eat the egg of an urchin roe, of an urchin. No. And she's eating that and other stuff. And like, I'm just not that adventurous, I'm California roll. I'm just a baby when it comes to that. And people even when I ate meat, I don't want my meat raw. That's disgusting. I want it
What meat is
cooked.
raw?
Well, you
Like
know when you have it
sashimi?
rare.
Oh, rare. Oh, okay, I see.
Rare. Like you have a
see.
burger rare.
Yeah.
My best friend Laura used to say, "Oh, I want it still mooing," and I was like,
Oh my god.
"But yeah, I'm a baby. So so I'm trying to think of oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. So
you had
so
some.
as you know, I'm blowing up on TikTok.
Yeah,
Which
you're
is
viral.
Ronnie's words, not mine. But so I've been trying to post, right?
Yeah.
So I have these stand-up sets that I did in, I think, 2017 and 2016, or I don't know when it was, but when I was a youth.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this one little clip, and I'm doing all the hashtags, right?
Uh-huh.
And I actually do feign an orgasm in this stand-up set. So I tried to do hashtag orgasm. I thought that would have a lot of followers. Nothing. And then it made me think, oh, I bet TikTok doesn't let you do
I
that,
think they would
maybe.
shadow ban you for that.
Right.
Like,
because then they
wouldn't
would
let
think it was
yeah.
porn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of kids on TikTok.
I know, and I thought about that before I posted my last thing, but you look around, some people every other word is fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some like considerably soft core stuff on TikTok, so
is there
it's not
that,
like
yeah,
it's just
that's not ending up in my feed. No,
it's not that it's ending up in my feed. It's just like I know, like for a fact, a lot of women they promote their OnlyFans through TikTok. Do you know what OnlyFans is?
No.
Oh my god.
No.
I can't believe I'm about to explain to you what OnlyFans is. So OnlyFans this is so funny. So OnlyFans is basically the subscription to a woman's porn. So it's cutting out the middleman in the porn industry.
Okay. And you got to say good for them on that one, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that like
be an entrepreneur. If you're going to be selling those things, who needs Mr. In Between?
Crazy. It's crazy because so you've cut out the middleman in the porn industry, and you monetize all of your homemade porn, and the money goes straight to you, and then OnlyFans gets a cut. So people have made millions in a day just from doing this. It's just so crazy because porn, sex sells, obviously, right? But then once you cut out, see, when you do porn, right? Like you get paid for the porn, right? Right? You get that flat fee.
So they say I would assume that you're getting paid for the porn. Let's hope you get paid for the porn.
Yeah, right? But this is a monthly subscription app. So people pay, and you can choose the price. So some people, if they're not as well known, they'll pay like $20, $30 a month a person could pay. But if you're well known, you can charge like $1 or $5. But if you have like 1 million people subscribe to you, see, to a person, $5 a month is not that much. But if you're a popular OnlyFans user,
I can do the math. I can do the math.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm rethinking my entire career right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's crazy. I know.
Oh my God. My husband and I are always joking about, is there a market for geezer porn? I don't think there is. But,
I mean, honestly.
No, I'm kidding. Of course. Yes, is there? Is there, Ronnie?
I would not be surprised.
There must be.
Yeah.
There must be, right? Everybody's got their kink. I mean, not many people. There are many different forms of kink, and I don't judge. But wow. Okay. And, we're just hoping someday that, I don't know, somebody will let us do advertisements on here. And,
oh my God. It's so crazy. Because I do a lot of research on this social media stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's a very common thing for women who are in their 20s, just not go to college, do this instead, and they're good for the rest of their lives. And it's like by the tens of thousands of like young women doing this, you know? It's just crazy.
I am so glad I'm not in my 20s now, because I would be making so many bad decisions. I just think I would be.
That's the thing, though, too, right?
Right?
Like,
because
that's a decision you make. Once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah, you can't take it back.
We can't take it back.
Wow.
It's a lifestyle you choose, right?
Yeah, but I have to say, and I'm saying this with this much knowledge, she said, putting her thumb and forefinger very close together, that it's much better, I think, if you're the entrepreneur and you're in charge of your own porn and your own content versus like, you know, having to drive into the valley and some gross, you know, somebody else being in charge of what you got paid, what you get paid, what you do, and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if you've seen the documentary by Rashida Jones, was it Hot Girls Wanted? It's about how horrible the porn industry is.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And how like, you know, they recruit you know, these women and then it's all messed up.
Yeah, totally. And I have to say, you know, social media, it's changing everything. And yeah, I did not know. Only porn. Okay, there you go. Well, I'm going to do some
only
research
fans
on that.
Not only
fans. Thank you. Only fans. Only fans.
This is kind of a weird segue into our episode this week.
It's such a weird segue, but let's do it. As we promised you guys last week, Neesha and Kyle are back, and we're gonna get part 2 of their journey from their journey about their faith and their relationship to the Mormon Church. And if you listened to last week, you know you're chomping at the bit. And if you didn't listen to last week, do that, and then come back here. All right. So let's check it out. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Losing It with me, Nelsie Spencer. I'm here today, so excited for part 2. Yes, that's right. The first time we're doing a 2-parter. And if you guys haven't listened to last week's, listen. I have the amazing and fun and wonderful and sweet and surprising Neesha and Kyle Bost from TikTok fame now, and fame I think is the appropriate word. Last week I had so many questions, and they have such an interesting story that really is about losing a lot of things, some good things, some bad things. And so we're just going to continue on because I didn't want to rush them. So they're back. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello.
We're back. Yeah, thank you
we're
for
back.
having
back. Yeah.
You guys are color coordinated. Did you plan that?
We did.
Actually, when I left earlier, you were wearing a different shirt.
Well,
yeah, they're color coordinated. This is what happens when you're married a long time. You just start showing up and matching outfits even when you don't try. No, they just both have lovely blue outfits on.
Well, she usually tells me what to wear, so.
As well she should. Oh, yeah. I have said to my husband on more than one occasion, you're not wearing that, are you? So last week we spoke about so many things, and I listened to the episode. I also went back and looked at some posts on TikTok that I'd seen before. Most of them I'd seen, but I also went back a little bit because I realized that there were a couple of things that I wanted to ask it that I didn't ask. So, and this is a little bit random, but I hope you will clear up a mystery for me. What's magic underwear?
So in the Mormon religion, once you go to the temple and as an adult and take out what is called your endowments and make promises to the Lord and to God, you receive underwear that looks like a cap sleeve for a woman, and then biker shorts, and it's all white, and they have special symbols on them that mean things, and you wear them as a sign of your devotion to God and as a sign of protection. And for men, it looks like just, a short sleeve shirt and boxer shorts that go down to your knee. But it's also, once you wear those and you go through the temple, you always wear those. And then you make sure you are wearing clothes that cover those. So you're always modest, right? It helps enforce the modesty standard in the church.
Yeah, I mean, we were being facetious when we called them magic underwear. That's kind of a feel like term that other people use. So we were joking a bit when we called them that. But there is some lore around, protecting people from accidents. Or growing up, we would hear stories about somebody who escaped a fire and their body was burned everywhere except for where they were wearing their garments. And so there is some lore out there about garments protecting people. When I was a kid, we used to go up into the mountains with my grandfather and cut wood in the summer. And I remember one time he was cutting a big log with the chainsaw, and it slipped and it cut his leg, but just below the garments. And I remember that was a story that got told over and over again, because it was as if this chainsaw hit his leg, but as soon as the garment started, the cut stopped. And so you hear these kind of stories that build up the kind of magic dynamic of the Mormon underwear.
And so where do you guys stand on the magic? What's the underwear status now? Have I crossed a line? You just tell me if I've crossed a line.
There are no lines to cross. You can ask us anything.
Oh God, I love that so much. So
it was really tricky because you earn those underwear basically, because you have to live your life a certain way to be able to get into the temple. You go to the bishop, you're the leader of the church where you are asked several questions, if you're obeying certain commandments, and, you have to be paying your tithing. So you really do work your whole life for these underwear.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to get, you can't go willy nilly. I couldn't go up there and say, hey, where's my magic underwear? They would go, sorry. Right. So you've worked for them.
We've worked for them. And then once we started to deconstruct the church and understand some of the commandments that you have to obey to wear these underwear, we were like, wait a minute, we don't believe in this anymore. Kyle took his off first, which was, honestly, it was a shock because I was still believing at the time. And it meant a lot. It meant like he no longer believes in the church or the temple or what the temple stands for. So it was hard. And I don't know, was it easy for you to take them off?
I mean, by the time I took them off, it was easy. There is this interesting symbolism to it in terms of like judging someone else's righteousness or worthiness. So even as members of the church, if we went out with other members of the church and we saw that somebody was wearing a shirt that was too short, knowing that they couldn't wear their garments and that shirt or those shorts, we would cover them. If
somebody's wearing if you can tell they're not wearing their undergarments, you're like, I'm not sure how righteous they are.
Yeah, and you would talk about it was gossip, right? People would be like, oh, I saw that Susie wasn't wearing her garments on Saturday. Like, it would be a conversation that people would gossip about because it indicated something about that person's, testimony, their worthiness. And so there is a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of judgment that comes, a little less for men because generally I wouldn't be wearing shorts that were, mid-thigh anyway. I might
wish
now.
you would. Yeah.
Come on.
But by the time I took them off, honestly, I had started to, this is similar to Neesha. I just started to exercise a lot more that summer. And so I was just wearing exercise clothes more often and I just wouldn't put my garments back on. And then eventually one day I was just like, you know what? I'm done wearing garments. And so by the time I took them off, it wasn't a big deal. Although it did create a conversation with Neesha and I because Neesha was a little bothered by it. She was like, because again, it's evidence of where I was at in terms of my church. So for her, it was a big deal. It was like, wait a second, this is real. Like what he's doing now is real. He's serious about this.
So he's not just talking. He's taking an action. He's taking an action that proves fundamentally that he doesn't believe.
Exactly.
Well, and the other thing, and again, some of this gets really nuanced and complex, but the other part is the garment is very symbolic of the Mormon temple. And the temple is where we were married. It's symbolic of our marriage, of our eternal family. And so me taking them off, I think was symbolic of all of those things kind of coming apart. It was symbolic of our marriage changing. It was symbolic of our family status changing, of this idea that maybe we weren't an eternal family anymore. Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of baggage attached to it. So it wasn't a big conversation.
And for me, it was like, when I finally got to the point, I would not wear them one day, and then I would like put them back on the next day, because I was like, I can't, like, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, and I was like, I can't take them off. And then I would maybe just wear the bottoms, not the top, and I'd be like, ooh, I can feel my shirt, this is weird, no, I gotta put my garments back on. Took me like a good couple of weeks to finally be like, okay, Neesha, it's gonna be okay, you can take them off.
It was a long time, and honestly, I got really annoyed by it.
Say that? You got annoyed?
I got annoyed by it because, it's just this transition. And so we'd be having this conversation about like, how do you feel about the church? How do you feel about this stuff? And in our conversations, she'd be like, well, I feel like it's not true. I feel like we should get out. I feel like this. But then she'd wear her garments, which to me was like, if you don't believe it, why are you still wearing that like creepy, weird, like, which as a member, I would have never described it that way. Now I see it that way. And so it was just confusing for both of us, because one day she'd be like, I don't know, we'd sit down and we'd have a beer together, but then she'd put her garments on at night, and it'd be like, that's odd. That's interesting.
Except that I have to say, when you said, Neesha, it took me a solid, I didn't know how long it was going to be. And when you said 2 weeks, I was like, that's nothing. That's a very quick transition from somebody just knowing how old were you when
she's being very generous with herself in 2 weeks. It was more like it was more like 6 or 8 weeks before the transition.
All right, so that to me that makes perfect sense, because my God, you guys have unpacked. I know I keep saying this, but you've unpacked so much in such a relatively short amount of time, and so yeah, and I just give you a lot of credit. Right. Go ahead.
Really like simple, practical things that come along with that. More for Neesha than for me, but in terms of like,
what underwear do I wear now?
What do I do now? Like, what underwear do I feel comfortable in? What, like, do I just go buy a random pair of underwear? What do I do?
Just go commando? Because I don't want panty lines. Like, I've never had panty lines. Actually, it's not true. We had panty lines, but they were at your knee. So it was different.
Well, okay, I hate to do this, but I got to let the dog out because she's barking. Hang on.
That's okay. I'm going to check the bagels.
I'm always saying I need a doggy door in my office door, but it's not practical. Oh, is she on bagel patrol?
Yeah, she ran to check on the bagels real quick. She thought.
Okay, that makes sense. So I think I'll wait. I'll wait till she comes back, because I have good more panty questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions too. Honestly, that was obviously she can share all of it, but it was it's just one of those things that you don't think about, right? Like, right. You have to find underwear that you like, and not even knowing what styles are out there.
Yeah. And then, so we're still talking panties.
No, it's a huge transition. Well, and I don't know exactly what you just said, Kyle, but
it's fine.
Even like, I was like, okay, now I can wear tank tops, but what bra do I wear? I've never worn a tank top. So is my bra strap is it supposed to show? Is that
yeah?
Like, I don't know. All of these funny questions that we just never experienced.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, and especially in the world now where, it's not like when you ask the question, what bra should I wear? There are so many choices.
Well, that's yeah.
Right. And so then you have sort of this, embarrassment of riches in terms of like, I mean, and then sort of also redefining yourself, because like underwear, that's an intimate thing, right? And you can wear, from a jog bra to something that's really racy. So, and so what was that like to be going out and buying a bra and having a freedom that you didn't have before?
Yeah, I'm still pretty, I think, conservative. I was like, how can I find like the sexiest granny panty that I can?
And did you succeed? Did you succeed?
I mean, they're not sexy.
Well, you have to put it in perspective.
That's true. You have to put it in perspective.
What she was wearing before compared to what she's wearing now. What she's wearing now is way sexier than what she's wearing.
That's true. We had
so you're like off in terms of the Mormon world. You're off the chart sexy. You're like Miss February. You're like off the charts. Yeah.
I mean, like bralettes. I didn't know that was like a real. I mean, I had seen people wear bralettes, but I was like, that's a thing. Let me try one of those. I was like, I mean, it wasn't for me. Too many nursing kids, so that wasn't
right. Need a little more support. Yeah. I hear you.
But there is a whole new world out there, and then honestly, it was like cost too. It was like this whole new cost because I mean, the underwear we had been wearing for the last 13 years. Well, Kyle longer than me. But, it was like $2 for the bottoms and $2 for the top. And now I'm spending like $5 on a pair of bottoms that I don't know if I'm actually going to like. And it's like a third of the material. Not even that. A fourth of the material. So.
Yeah. Yes. The markup is incredible. I just paid $44 for a bra.
Did you really?
I did.
It's crazy.
I did.
I don't even know if it's like the right size. I don't know. I feel like, and you can't try anything on right now because all of the like clothing stores, dressing rooms are closed. So I did go to the local mall and being like, okay, I'm just gonna like try a bunch of stuff. So when I came home, Kyle was like, "Do you really need all of that?" I was like, "I don't know."
Well, come on. She's 33 years old, so. She can't just, she could, but it's awkward to go up to somebody and be like, I actually have no clue what I'm doing.
Excuse me. Yeah. I'm buying my first bra. Can you help? What's the underwire? I don't know. How big are these?
Right? It's so silly.
Oh my goodness. I love it though, because I mean, what I love about you guys is you're so joyous. I mean, I know that you've gone through hard times and I know that it hasn't been easy, but there's this sense of humor you have about it and that is so infectious and so great that is really, really something. And is that something you guys have always had between you?
I think we're a pretty silly couple.
Yeah, I think we've always joked. I definitely think that I wish this is the piece that people could, I hope everyone gets to experience this at some point in their life. There was this like immediate relief when you realize that all of these rules you've been obeying, this box that you've been put in, that it's not true and you don't have to do any of it. And there was literally just this like immediate, once that really hits you, you're like, wait a second, all of this burden that I've been carrying, all of these checklists that I've been trying to meet up every day, all of this stuff is immediately gone. And so we've always had like just a fun, loving kind of relationship, but there was certainly a relief that was like, you know what, we can be even more fun loving. And some of that, I love Neesha. When we were married, she said the but. When we were together members, there's a lot of judgment that comes with that because you're expecting your spouse to live up to all of these things. And so I've always had a little bit of a rebellious nature. And if I would say like, a dirty joke or an off joke, or I would watch a show that was TV mature or rated R, heaven forbid, then she would be really judgmental about those things and overt about it, right? It wasn't like she was quiet about it. She'd be like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Why are you doing that? Why are you bringing like this terrible spirit in our house? You're in charge of like the spirit that our kids are going to feel, and why would you make it a terrible one?
Right. So. And if I tell a joke that I thought was really funny, but she thought was inappropriate, she'd be, mad at me for 2 hours after that. And so we both came to a place where we're like, actually, we don't have to, I don't have to worry about if you say the F word or if you say a joke that's a little inappropriate. I don't have to judge you for that. It has given us a much higher level of freedom to just be ourselves.
Yeah, because just like you put it, so, and we talked about this last week, being put in this box, when you've got all these rules, and we all have our boxes, but depending on your philosophy or your religion, especially when you get into these religions with these rigid rules, the box is small and the walls don't move, and so then you're always operating from fear, right? Because oh my God, did I go outside? Does that mean I'm not going to heaven? And then, so on the one hand, like I have so much compassion for both of you, but especially like for Neesha, like, Kyle, wait a minute, we might not go to heaven. You know what I mean? So yes, there's judgment but the source of it makes sense because it's all this fear, and the fear is what's keeping you in that box because you've been told that if you're not in that box, you're not going to get the big prize at the end.
Right.
It is. And honestly, to just play off all of that, the moment of like realization when you let all that go and just realizing that like my person, I am enough. Like I am enough and you are enough, and I don't have to like beat myself up every day for like trying to be this like perfect person. I can just really have some self-love that I don't think we really had for ourselves or for each other for a really long time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, it's interesting because as members, we would describe those things as love. So the judgment that we would pass on each other, the standard that we would hold each other to, the box that we would keep each other within, we described those things as love because if you believe this is who God is and this is what God requires of you and I love you, then I'm going to hold you to that requirement. So we described these things as love. But I do think at the root, it was far more fear. It was fear of missing out. It was fear of not achieving this thing. It was fear of
fear and shame, because there's there's so much shame connected to this type of ideology that that it's the fear and shame and guilt that keeps you doing it, even when you start to question, probably. But I just want to say to you both that I didn't grow up with any religion. Both my parents were pretty much atheists. I have a spiritual life now, and it even continues to evolve. But like loving yourself, that's like radical, whether you've got God or not, whether you've got religion or not. Like, because we live in this culture where you don't want to look conceited and you don't want to, and we're always trying, at the end of the day, what do we have? We have a list in our head that the stuff we didn't do, and that if we do stuff, we matter. And if we don't do stuff, we don't matter. And so that little core of like because I have this life coach, which you may or may not have heard me talk about her. And she's from Russia, so she had a Russian accent. And like, what if, I'm not going to do the accent, but what if we're perfect right now?
Yeah.
What if we've always been perfect? Because if we're going to go with this God thing, because God made us perfect, we don't have to do anything. We're perfect right now. We've always been perfect. And, I mean, that is this radical thing that I came to in my 60s. And I friggin' cling to it because that's my truth, and, oh my God, what a concept, and like you guys said last week, it's so great. I really, really, first of all, I loved interviewing, then I loved listening to it because, especially the part about how much judgment you used to have of each other and then the letting go of that. And it even helped me, and my husband and I get along great, but it even helped me maybe notice when maybe I was judging him, and what if I accepted him 100%? I mean, what would that feel like? Yeah. And it, like you guys said last week, it makes your ability to love so much more profound, so much deeper.
I love that. I love that you've been able to have that experience. I love that.
Oh, you know, I mean, you didn't catch me in the middle of my, you know, when I was a zealot about it, you know, where I would stop strangers on the street and go, love yourself. No, but no, it changed me profoundly. And I started therapy when I was 19 and I had a lot of depression and a lot of stuff. It took me a very long time to get to, you know, to realizing that a big piece of the puzzle is that I didn't love myself, you know, and that's, you know, Svetlana, you know, what if you loved yourself the way you love a puppy?
No.
Do you judge a puppy? No, you see a puppy on the street and you're going, oh my God, look at the puppy. You know, we don't even know that friggin' puppy, but we love it completely.
Right? Well, and I saw that we were doing it to our kids at such an early age. And I'm so glad that we can just put a stop to that and be like, you know what? This kid is its own unique person, and our second one is its unique person, and our third, like, you know, so on. Like, we can just love them for whoever they are and not have to try to conform them to this, to these ridiculous standards.
It's actually been kind of shocking, alarming in some ways to realize how much and how quickly we had already indoctrinated our kids.
Wow. That was my next question, actually. My next question was about how has this all landed on the kids and how much have you noticed them change and how hard was it for them to let go? Yeah.
I think our oldest gets it more. Like he kind of understood what was happening. He's at 9, he's turning 10 here in a month or two. But he saw more of it and he was able to wrap his head a little bit more around it. So he was confused in ways that he could talk about, where he could say, he could ask questions. Well, what does it mean now that we're not Mormon? Or is it okay? He would say sometimes, you know, as Mormons, we would never say something like, oh my God. We would never say God in like a colloquial context. And so one day he was like, so now that we're not Mormon, can we say OMG? Can we say, oh my God? So he had this awareness where he could ask those questions. The younger two would just do things and we would notice, oh, they're doing that because we taught them to do that. But they didn't even have the awareness to ask, should I be doing it this way or do I still have to do it this way?
They just knew it was expected. Like that's how we lived.
Right.
Yeah. And so how did that, I mean, as sort of you guys changed and the atmosphere changed, did that just give them room to change as well? Or did you have to say, honey, you don't need to do that anymore?
I think our middle one has been the slowest to change because he's the most cautious and he's the most sensitive to other people's emotions and how his actions impact other people. And so what we were teaching him in the church gave him I think it fed off of that kind of nature of his. So he's been a little slower to change because it's just some of that's still part of his nature. And we're trying to help him see it's okay to have different emotions. It's okay to have conflict. It's okay to learn how to work through conflict. As for example, as members, we taught that conflict is of the devil. Like that if you're in conflict with somebody, that's because Satan wants you to be in conflict, and that there's never conflict, you know, if you have the Spirit and you're loving like God, which kind of stifles some emotional intelligence. And we see our middle child working through that now, realizing, okay, it's okay if I get angry. I just need to learn healthy ways to manage my anger, right? I need healthy ways to express it. And so it's trial and error like any parenting, right? I mean, there's moments where he takes it too far now, where he feels like he has a little too much freedom, and we have to say, you know, you probably shouldn't call your brother that name. There's other ways to like navigate this. But initially he was just very sensitive. And the reason we could tell that he was so indoctrinated is because he was judging us and his brothers, like, well, you shouldn't say that, or you shouldn't do that, or
you shouldn't be drinking coffee,
right?
Right, because how do you? And because wait a minute, we had all these rules, and now the rules have changed. That must have been kind of crazy. Yeah. Right. I mean, it was crazy for you guys.
Yeah, I'm totally was. And for a while, especially, so Kyle, you know, again, started his journey first. So, like, he started drinking coffee first, and it was a shock to me. So we kept it quiet from, you know, for the kids for a while because we didn't want to rock their world too much. But then eventually, like, you can't hide everything. And we just thought that's
because then you're also being, then you're being
exactly.
inauthentic. But again, how do you introduce it? You guys don't have a rule book for this.
Right.
Where's
before we had a rule book for every way to live our lives. Honestly, and even talking about the kids about certain things. And some of it was like, well, we just don't do that because the prophet asked us to. Like, and that was the typical response, like, why don't we do this, Mom? Well, the prophet asked us not to. That's why we don't do it. And now we can actually, like, we're not contentious because it makes people feel bad. And, it's okay to, like, sit in your anger for a little bit and be angry and then, like, move past it, whereas before we're like, don't be contentious because the prophet said not to. So it's just, like, opened our world to some new language for our kids where they're so anyway, back to, like, the coffee and all of that. We just had to sit them down and then start telling them, like, Dad's going through this process. And I know we said that we don't drink coffee, but we're actually going to change that now. And we feel like it's not actually that bad. And this is what Dad's learning. And so we actually just started, they saw us fight all of the time.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, we just have to be honest with them. And
it also gave us a chance to just give them opportunities for their own critical thinking and reasoning. So rather, in the past, we would always just tell them, here's how you should think and feel about this thing, or here are the rules surrounding this thing. And now we just have open conversations and we say, how do you feel about it? What do you think about it? Okay, what are the trade-offs if you approach it this way? What are the benefits? What are the risks? And so we're able to just evaluate and have conversations about different ways to navigate life, and they can think through that process themselves and figure out, okay, if I take this action, it's going to have this result versus this action is going to have a different result, and which one do I care more? And so it's just now every conversation we have is an opportunity for them to learn and display their own kind of critical thinking and emotional intelligence. Whereas before, we just shut that down because this is what you need to believe and here's what you need to feel.
Let me just say, first of all, I think I said this last week, but if I didn't, when's the self-help book coming out? That's just what I want to know. Because not only have you guys navigated this thing, and I know you're still navigating it, but there are plenty of people out there, there are plenty of parents out there that are not Mormons or are not in some religion with a lot of rules, that still, when their parents ask questions, they might not say because the prophet wants you to, they just say because I say so. Right? So that idea of shutting down your child's critical thinking and giving them rules and not telling them the reason for the rules, that, religion doesn't have the market cornered on that. So what I think is pretty damn amazing is that not only did you guys sort of open up the gates and pull the curtains back and go, oh my God, it's a brand new day, and we get to sort of decide what our rules are and what works for us. You're giving your kids all these tools. You're teaching them to think, to be critical thinkers. And I think that is one of the most important things we can do for our kids. There's a lot of talk about schools and curriculum and that kids go there and that they tell them how to think. They tell them how to think or what to think versus how to think. And that, I think religion does that. I think institutions can do that. I think politics can do that. Parents can certainly do that. So I'm very impressed that you guys, how you navigated from the box to opening the box and so bravo, man, really. Thank you. Like being able to say, well, I don't know. Well, what do you think? And even when you said earlier, Kyle, sometimes it's okay to have bad feelings and it's okay to be angry. And sometimes we have conflicting feelings. I mean, man, oh man, we all need to hear that, right? Because sometimes when we're anxious, I feel anxious, that's bad, or I'm angry, that's bad, or versus like, my brother does this thing, he's very woo-woo, and I mean that in a complimentary way. He does this thing called the presence process, and it's a book written by a guy who healed himself. He had this chronic pain and he couldn't get healed, and so he created this thing. And it's about emotions. And he always says, if you're having a feeling, lean into that feeling. Don't pull away from it, because you're having that feeling for a reason. And so, oh, well, if I really felt this feeling, what would happen? Oh, maybe I'd cry. Oh, well, maybe that means I need to cry, you know? So I don't know how I went off on that tangent, but I guess it's just giving our kids, giving each other, and giving ourselves permission to feel and to be who we are.
Yep.
You know, what a radical concept.
Well, that's something we talked explicitly about after we realized, okay, we really are leaving this religion. And not only are we leaving it, but we don't feel good about giving our kids any of these tools that the religion gave us. So one of the things we actually talked about is we said, we need to find new tools. What we didn't want to have happen was go from this place of being extremely intentional, although it was boxed and rigid and, you know, in many ways limiting. We didn't want to go from this place of having all of these tools and all of this structure and all of this routine to a place where there were now no tools and no structure and no routine. So we had very explicit conversation, we still do, around what are the tools we're giving our kids now? Not just theoretical tools where it's like, well, you know, we kind of hope that they develop into this person, but actual tools when they face a problem. Have we given them a problem-solving tool when they face an emotional challenge? Have we given them some emotional, adaptable, or emotionally intelligent tools to use so that they know how to reflect on their feelings, how to forecast their actions? And so we're very intentional still about giving them tools. And a lot of the practices that we had as active members of the Mormon Church, we've just modified to fit kind of our new lifestyle. So Sundays, we still do things on Sundays, but we give them more of a secular lesson. And we talk about exactly what we're talking about right here. We still do family nights. But again, we give them tools in a secular lesson. It's more of a discussion, and it's not about teaching them some explicit thing that they have to believe. It's just about discussing life and hearing about their lives and giving them a chance to explore and question and learn. And how
do you think, how do you think, why do you think that having come from that structure, you know, having grown up and born into this incredibly strict rule-based religion, did that lead you, was that somehow helpful or instructional in you creating this new world? Because I'm very impressed by you're like, okay, well, all right, we're not going to do any of that shit anymore, but what are we going to do? Do you know what I mean? And like really thinking it through. That to me is very impressive because, you know, people all over the world are constantly having kids and they have no game plan whatsoever, right? And I'm not even saying that that's bad or wrong. It's just like, well, we'll figure it out, and when they're hungry, we'll feed them, and when they need to go to school, we'll take them. But do you think that that's part of what influenced that? The fact that you came from structure that made you go, well, if I'm going to get rid of this, then what am I going to put in its place?
Yeah, well, we knew we couldn't just stop cold turkey for our kids, right? Because we had been doing so many things already. And then we knew there was going to be change. And to stop everything would just feel like too much change for them, right? Too little to do all of that. And bless Kyle's heart, this is just how he operates.
I can tell that's how his brain works, right?
He makes tools for a living. He gives people the tools they need to run effective businesses. And so to be like, this is my opportunity to make new tools for my family, he was like, all right, I've got this. And it was actually, it's been fun because there's little things that we tried to do before, like meditation, that we had kind of like dabbled in while we were still believing Mormons, that we have now picked up full time versus where before we kind of dabbled in it, but didn't really dive into it because we were already so busy with all of the other tools that we had. And so now it's just like, okay, now we'll try some like nature church, or we'll try meditation. And so this was like Kyle's shining opportunity, I think, for our family to make these tools for us and to
Well, full disclosure too, I am in a PhD program for educational psychology in development and learning. So it's what
all right. Now you've been keeping that from me, Kyle. You've been keeping that from me. I've been so impressed. No, because your language, intentional and like I'm like this guy knows his shit, man. So all right, so you're in a PhD. So fantastic though. Fantastic. Okay, so the self-help book is definitely coming. Okay, that's good. That's good. So anyway, yeah, I know an agent. No, I don't know. I wish I knew an agent. Yeah. Okay, good.
I have already written and published a book. Just throwing that out there too.
Okay. And what's the name of the book?
It's called Escalate, the practical guide to get yourself unstuck and build lifelong momentum.
When did you write that? Like last week or something? Was this?
I wrote that in 2007. I think it was published late 2017, maybe early 2018.
Okay. All right. So that's a very important piece of the puzzle there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to make this point, my career was in organizational development and strategy. And so my career was always around this idea of like human kind of development, engagement, and building frameworks and tools. So it wasn't hard to kind of translate some of that to just my life experience, right? Or personal experience. I hadn't done as much. Although Neesha would tell you, even when we were active believing members, I would test and pilot tools on our family, on our marriage. I got certified to do all of these personality assessments like DISC and Hogan. And every time I got certified on a new one, we would take it together. And so it's kind of, it's not like it came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
We've already been doing it. It just was happenstance or luck that we had that to fall back on, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of relationships don't. Like, they only have the tools that the church has given them.
Right,
At least I had a process for creating.
So you had all this stuff in your back pocket. You know?
I mean, I didn't obviously know that it was ever going to become the kind of foundation of our relationship and how we operate as a family. But I mean, it was there, and it was lucky that we did have it.
I mean, if we were still Mormon, we would call that a tender mercy of the Lord.
Yeah, totally would.
Well, now, to my next extremely important question. So what was it like the first time you said fuck? I mean, you guys weren't even allowed to think cuss words before.
Yeah.
And now, and I get the feeling that you guys aren't dropping F-bombs left and right. I know that. But I think Kyle did actually say the F word on a TikTok. And I fucking love praying or something like that, which I loved so much. So what's that like? This is a serious question. What was it like?
Well, so Neesha has actually a really cool video on TikTok the very first time. So she said motherfucker for the very first time. The first
time
of her entire life on a TikTok video. That's 100% authentic. It's legitimately the very first time she ever said the F word, ever said motherfucker, all authentic on TikTok. And she says it and then she immediately breaks down and cries.
I still cry thinking about it. I just it was invigorating. It was freeing. It was like, I can do whatever I want and I don't have to feel bad about it. It's just a word. And the only reason I said it was because, music is healing sometimes. And I was listening to this artist named Kesha, and she was just saying it in her music. She's a motherfucking woman. And I was like, she's just saying it. And it sounds so cool. And I'm a woman and I want to say it. And I was listening to it while I was running, and I was I just wanted to scream it, but I just didn't feel like it was appropriate because, I was if I was with my kids and somebody said it, this is why I was Mormon, I would have been so offended. I can't believe my kids just heard that. Now I'm I don't fucking care what your kids hear. So if
I were there, I would carry you around the room on my shoulders. I just love that so much. I love it so much. And I love that. I love the release that it brings to you. And I think it's because we're so hard on ourselves, and we're so, fear can be such a big part of our days and big part of what keeps us stuck or whatever. And so I just love the Kesha.
Yeah, Kesha.
Kesha's like, I'm a motherfucker, motherfucking whatever. And like that brought you out of it, and that it made you burst into tears of relief, not fears of regret or fear or guilt. I mean, my God, that's just go ahead.
It's like these little pieces of like my inner personality that I like always had, but just suppressed my whole life, right? That are just like trying to like weasel their way out. And I'm like, no, go back in. And then finally it just like wants to come out, and you're like, that feels amazing to like let this out and be okay with it. And I'm like, I just want to like dig down and be like, what else is in there? Like, what else wants to come out?
Yeah, I love that. What else is in there? Well, you know what? It's just going to keep on coming, right? Oh my goodness.
It's amazing.
It is honestly like, it's just, those are small things, but as a woman in Mormonism, you're always kind of second class. Like, you can't be a full leader. You can't hold the priesthood. You have like a role that's primarily in the home. You're supposed to be the nurturer, the mother, having kids, like all of that's dictated to you. And so it has been fun to watch Neesha really break out of that shell, not just saying words like motherfucker, but to actually say...
But that's probably the most important change. Right?
It's a big one.
Let's not minimize that.
Come on.
No,
but even like for her to show like an interest in politics and be like, hey, I actually watched the news today and I know what's going on. Before, she just couldn't care less. And I would try to talk to her about politics or what's happening, and she'd just be like, why do I care? I'm like, all I care about is being a mom and in our home. I don't need to know what's happening in the world. And now she's the one that she'll come and she'll be like, did you know this just happened? How do you feel about that? And we'll have political discussions, or we'll have conversations about social issues. And all of that in the past was like, Kyle, I don't want to talk about that because I just don't care. But now she actually has an interest.
Yeah, well, I mean, my one job was to raise my kids and get them to Mormon heaven. That's all I needed to do. And I was like, I was so immersed in that. Like, my kids don't need to know the news. My kids need to know the Book of Mormon stories, and they need to know
and they need to follow the rules. They need to follow the rules and wear the underwear and not say motherfucker. And because we've got eternity that we got to get to. Yeah.
Our kids have picked up on some of the bad words, though, so we got to tone that one back down.
Yeah.
Our kids are funny because we'll say a bad word, and then they'll all kind of look at us, and we'll give them permission. We'll say, okay, you can say it once. So then they'll all say it, but then we have one who always is like, I can't stop thinking about it.
You need to say it one more time.
I need to say it again.
It's that forbidden fruit thing. Fruit thing. Yeah. It's funny because I'm not going to quote this correctly, but we talk about sort of evolved people, which I hesitate to say that because I feel like there's even judgment in that word. But, less evolved people talk about other people. And the most evolved people talk about ideas. And so it was interesting just to hear you guys talk about gossiping before. And, it's tempting, it's seductive, but it's not good and it's not nice. But it's easy, right? And so I think, like you were saying, if somebody wore a tank top, then it's like, oh, can you believe when you're in a community? Look, all communities have rules, and I'm not saying just religions do that. We have our little, I suppose, in whatever culture you're in, there's rights and wrongs and goods and bad. But when you find yourself talking about other people, you're vibrating pretty low. When you're talking about ideas, then your vibration is higher. And so I was just noticing that's change. And you guys are always talking about ideas. I mean, not to say that you're not doing weird flips in the grass and stuff like that. But, so how did you guys look at each other? When and how did you look at each other and go, TikTok? How did that happen?
That's funny. So Kyle had been kind of dabbling in TikTok before I even thought it was a thing, right? And then he got himself kind of in the ex-Mormon community on TikTok, and then just realized that there were no couples on TikTok talking about leaving the religion. And so, talk about ideas. Kyle's the idea man here. And so he just said, like, let's do it, Neesha. And I was a little bit apprehensive because I didn't know I knew there would be consequences with our family seeing those things. Eventually I decided to do it because I thought, out of any of the social media platforms, that would probably be the least likely that our family would see something. Yeah. But we just decided to do it one day and share our story.
And I should say, TikTok actually was a part of kind of my journey out, because it's a platform where religion probably hates this, but people who are ex-religious love it. It's a platform where you can get fed information that you weren't looking for. Sure. And because it's such short videos, I think you're a little bit more likely to actually hear something. On YouTube, you're not likely to get fed something that isn't in line with like hashtags that you've really been pursuing. Whereas on TikTok, if you've liked a video that uses the hashtag Mormon, you're likely to see something that uses the hashtag ex-Mormon right after that. And before you realize what you heard, you're like, oh, wait a second. And so TikTok actually played a role in me. I was already on my way out, but TikTok played a role in me finding information out about the church that I wasn't aware of, which just accelerated my process out. And so I grew to appreciate that community on TikTok, those people who were putting information out and sharing their stories. And just like Neesha said, at some point I realized like there's all these creators who made a difference for me. Yeah. I just haven't seen a couple who said, here's what our journey looked like together.
Yeah. Wow, that's so great. And and the thing about TikTok too, you got a minute. So you got to say what you got to say in a minute, right? Yeah. So you're not like watching some video that you're like, okay, you're fast forwarding and that, right? So did you know blah, blah, blah? Did you know, right? So it's like in 1 minute, you're getting a new piece of information. And then, of course, you can pursue it and research it and find out whether it's true or not. But wow, that's fascinating. And my impression is that you did it and then it really expanded quite quickly. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. We posted like 3 or 4 videos. And honestly, our first videos, we just recorded us like blabbing. Some of them make no sense. We posted like 3 or 4 videos the first night, and we thought, oh, maybe they'll get like, 50 views. And we woke up to the next morning, and this doesn't sound like a lot now, but we woke up the next morning to 200 followers, not just views, but 200 followers. Wow. When we literally posted them at like 9 o'clock the night, we woke up the next morning and we had 200 followers. And like, what?
Whoa!
200 people followers. And then within the first week, I think we had 5,000 followers, and then it just like grew from there. And I think we've only been on for
months.
Like 2.5 months maybe, and we're at 67,000 followers or something.
Yeah, I mean, because you guys I said this last week, but and I think we've underscored that in this part too, is that yes, you guys are specifically talking about leaving the Mormon religion, and yet so much of what you're saying has to do transcends that. I mean, I know that a lot of people that are struggling with their faith or deconstructing their faith it's probably a big percentage of your followers. But I dove right in and was quite and I grew up in a house without any rules. Like my dad was over here with no rules, and my mother was over here where my brother got kicked out of the house for not wearing a belt to watch the 8th graders graduate when he was in 7th grade. So maybe there was there was definitely some weird stuff going on, but the point I'm making is you resonated, like I was really interested in you and interested in your story. And I didn't have any religion that I was struggling with, or rules that I was struggling with, or faith that I was struggling with. I just think you guys are so authentic, and your journey transcends that. So,
Thank you.
yeah. And you're also adorable and you're color coordinated. I mean, come on.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
One of the fun things has been people who started following us for the novelty, right? Because we were different than their upbringing and we seem like this, it's novel. It's something that's an outlier from kind of the society that most people grow up in. And so some people started following us kind of for the novelty, like, oh, this cult couple who laugh. And what's been fun is actually to see those same people comment and say that. Like, I started following you for the novelty, but I actually now see myself in your story. Yeah. Like, I see myself in this piece. And that's one of the coolest parts of it is for people to realize, yeah, there are things that are unique and novel about our experience, but there also are things that are unique and novel about yours. And then there's a whole bunch of overlap regardless of where you come from.
That is the thing. That is the thing that I want to, we are all of us more the same than we are different. All of us, because we all have fear and we all have pain and we all have confusion and we all have anxiety and we all want love and we all want connection. I mean, we are so much more the same than we are different. And that is the thing that I always want to focus on, and it's one of the reasons that I want, I do this podcast is because I want to create connection. And that's why I want to have different types of people and find that similarity and find that connection. Because, otherwise, why are we here? Right. Why are we here? Right. Oh my goodness. Well, we've managed to talk another big chunk of time here, but we handled all the big questions. We handled underwear and cussing and kids and TikTok. So we do end with 3 questions, and I'll give them to you one at a time. What is something you hope to lose in the next year?
Well, I know I'd like to lose 35 pounds.
That counts. That's legitimate.
I think I would like to lose the residual, just baggage, of just these crazy expectations I had for myself, and really just learn to love myself every day. Because even though we've had these epiphanies, it's still a huge work in progress every day, right? So I would like to lose a little bit of those ridiculous ideals of perfection that I have for myself, and just really love me and Kyle and my kids. Because I think also when I do that, I just love, like you said before, I can love my neighbors, I can love the community more, and I can just be an overall better person. Yeah.
And it sort of seems like an opposite, like that self-love wouldn't, that self-love is narcissism and it's
right.
And all that, but self-love leads, and more self-love and more compassion leads to more love and compassion for others. So even though it seems intuitively incorrect. Okay, good. I like both of those. Okay, 35 pounds, perfect. More self-love, excellent. Lose meaning getting rid of the old baggage, and also keep in mind that these pathways that we have in our brain that either go to guilt, create guilt or anxiety, those are old pathways, and those synapses are snapping, So sometimes it's just okay to go, oh, right, that's an old thought. That's an old story, and separate from it. I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to you.
No, it's obviously all relatable.
Yeah, right. So what's something you hope to gain in the next year?
Confidence. I think it's just, confidence in having some harder conversations with our family members, having more confidence in being like, you know what, it's okay if I wear a tank top in front of this crowd of people. It's normal to them, right? More confidence in letting my kids be themselves, especially in front of our true believing family members. More confidence in standing up for my own rights, and for rights for LGBTQ, which is something we would have never done before. But just, I want all of that for our family.
Oh my God. You got me again. It's so, that is what a huge leap. And how beautiful is that? And how truly, like, in my opinion, what God should be, and all about love and acceptance. So that's fantastic. How about you, Kyle? Something you'd like to gain in the next year?
I think community. I think, one of the things you lose when you leave a religion that was as orthodox and tight knit as the one we left is you lose that community. And there's limited ways to really connect with that community now because we see the world so differently. And so I think for me, the thing that I would really like to discover and kind of gain over this next year is a new community. And that may be academia. I don't know. We'll see.
That sounds fantastic. And last question, something you hope you never lose.
This like spark of joy and love, especially that we have now. I feel like we're like what honeymooners we're supposed to be like.
I think, 100% that. Just there's this, we talked about kind of that flood breaking and just the relief. And in this, like, some of that I am worried is like the newness of it. And I hope that never wears off. I hope that there's never a day I wake up where I'm like, oh, this is old hat, right? Like I've grown accustomed to all of this liberation and this freedom and this mental ability to just explore the world, this emotional ability to be available. I hope I never wake up and have that gone. I want what this fire is, this spark, exactly what Neesha just said, I never want to lose that.
Oh, love it. Love it so much. Oh, gosh. I have this thing that I do every morning where I wake up, and I didn't make this up, and I'm grateful for my pillow. Because sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be sad or scared or what, and then I'll go, oh, right, I'm grateful for my pillow. I'm grateful for my bed. I love my headboard. I love the way the sun shines in my window. I literally do that every day. And so that's exactly what you're saying. Wake up and remember all the things we're grateful for. Mm-hmm. So yeah, fantastic. Oh, thanks you guys. Thanks for coming back. You're amazing. You're amazing. And,
I feel like we can talk to you for another 5 hours.
I know. We're just going to have to just once a week, just chat. Just say motherfucker once in a while.
Love it.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Keep doing what you're doing.
You too.
Always.
Okay. So that was amazing, just like I knew it would be, right?
Yeah, super interesting. I
mean, so fascinating. I could have talked to them for another 2 hours, and I'm glad they didn't mind me asking about magic underwear and motherfucker. They took that really quite nicely.
Yeah, they did. It's kind of crazy,
right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's amazing how they can just, how they're so open and willing to display and talk about it on TikTok and on the podcast and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. And I went back after this second interview, part 2 that we just did, and watched a few more TikToks, and they're just so cute, and they like each other so much. I mean, I know that seems like a stupid, obvious thing to say about a married couple, but and they're both so sweet, and I don't know, I just like them. I want to hang out with them. Hang out with them and, encourage Neesha to, I don't know, wear tank tops, You can
make bagels together.
We'll make bagels together. Of course. Yeah. Of course. Oh my God. So, we didn't really ask for a story or an email last week because it was part 1 of a 2-parter, but then the week before we had Chase Bernstein, and she told that horrific travel story, and I have such a good nightmare travel story that I thought I would just share it.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So, oh my God, every time I tell a story, I have to remind all of you how ancient I am, but that's all right. I love myself. I am the perfect age. Yeah. So it's 1978, maybe 79. I'm in New York. I've moved to New York. My stepdad which is funny because I don't usually call him my stepdad. I usually call him my mom's second husband. So
that's much longer.
Yeah, but I don't really like to use the word dad in relationship to him. But because I was 13 when they got married, and I was horrible and rebellious. And anyway, so he's a fisherman, but like commercial fisherman, not like, oh, gee, hopefully I'll get enough food for dinner. And so he built this boat. He named it after my mom. He called it the Nell Bell because my mom's name was Nell, like mine. And and so he built it in Panama City, Florida, and he had to bring it from there through the Panama Canal back to Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
I know.
Wait, how big is the boat?
It's a big boat. It's like probably.
But he built the boat?
Well, he didn't build it. He paid
somebody. He got it made.
Yes, thank you. That's a good
okay.
That's a good thing to clarify. Yeah.
Gordon I just pictured like Noah's Ark or something.
Yeah.
Just,
Gordon was out
away.
there. Yeah. Yeah, out there with a hammer and some 2x4s. No, he had it built in a boat building yard in Panama City, Florida. Okay.
I see.
So my mom, and I had this boyfriend at the time that we were pretty serious, and my mom comes and says, listen, Gordon has to get the boat from Panama City, Florida, through the Panama Canal, back to Los Angeles, and we want to invite you and Steve to come, and we'll go through the Caribbean, and we'll stop at all these islands on the way, and then drop you guys off in Antigua. And at the time, my mom and Gordon actually had a house in Antigua. It sounds very fancy, and it was fancy, but of course, it all went south, and I think the bank took it back, but that's a whole other story. So we're like, okay, great, right? So I've only got so much time off from school. Steve's only got so much time off from work. So we fly down to Panama City, Florida to hop on the Nell Bell, and it's not ready. The boat's not ready.
It's not,
and
what do you mean?
It's not finished. It hasn't been finished being built.
And so when did you find out? Everyone found out this day?
We're already in Panama City, Florida, where it's like 110 degrees because it's the summer. And the only thing to do there is to go to, there's actually something called a snakeatorium, where apparently they have a bunch of snakes. And the movie The Shining had just come out. So we went to the snakeatorium. That took a day. Then we went to see The Shining. That took 2 hours. 8 days later, we're still in Panama City, Florida. Okay? 8 days out of these 2 weeks that we're going to spend. We get on the boat with Gordon and my mom and my brother and his wife and 2 crewmen who, I mean, if you looked at them, they both knew what they were doing. They were a little sketchy. Do you know what I mean? They were just like,
yeah.
Do they really know?
Pirates.
And, yeah. And what time of day do they start drinking beer? It was kind of like that.
Okay.
So, for the first 3 or 4 days, for the first day, it's kind of cool. It's like, oh my God, we're out in the ocean. And then we're out in the ocean and you can't see land in any direction, which is one of the weirdest things you'll ever experience. Oh, yeah. And it's really quiet, no wind. And the diesel engine is going, and it's a fishing boat. It's not a pleasure boat, so there's nowhere comfortable to sit. You smell the diesel fumes all the time.
How is the trip supposed to be on the water?
It's supposed to be leisurely, right? Because we're going to stop at all these islands. But because we spent 8 days in Panama City, we're now just going and oh, there's the Grand Cayman. Oh, there's we're just passing these islands. We're not stopping at them. We're not stopping at them. And it's really hot and it's horrible. And then on the 3rd night out, we're in swells the swells are so big, they're crashing over the bow of the boat. Now, the bow of this boat is 30 feet out of the water, crashing over the wheelhouse. And at one point, my brother goes up to make sure to see what Gordon's doing. He's asleep on watch. He's asleep.
What do you mean?
In the middle of the night. He's the one who's supposed to be steering the boat.
Oh.
and he's asleep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But so how long is the trip on the boat supposed to be?
I don't know. It was a long time ago, but it probably was 5 days.
Was it a couple days? 5 days?
No, it was 5 days. No, it was 5 days. At least 5 days.
God.
And 3 days
you were on a boat for 5 days?
on a boat for 3 days. The first 3 days, no wind, hot, diesel fumes, only waving at islands, not stopping at any of these islands that we were going to stop at. The second and third day, swells, like where we were all literally like we thought we're going to die.
Really?
We thought we're going to die. And so then when finally the swells stop and we're like, we're planning on mutinying. We want to mutiny. We want to get off the... No, I kid you not. I kid you not, Ronnie. All of this...
Against who?
Gordon. Against Gordon.
Really?
Yeah. Me and Dickie, my brother.
And Gordon's... Who's Gordon?
Gordon is my mother's second husband.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So Gordon's
the one
that we...
the plank?
No, well, we're like, I went in, I said to my mom, Mom, this is ridiculous. He's got to take us, drop us off in San Juan, Puerto Rico. This is a nightmare.
So you guys are having like secret conversations around this tiny boat to try to plan this mutiny.
Planning a mutiny. Yes. And then my mother says to me, what did you guys expect? A pleasure cruise? And we were like, yeah, Mom, that's what you told us. We're going to go to all these different Caribbean islands.
That's why you agreed to get on the boat.
Yeah, no, we thought it was going to be a fucking nightmare. And we said, we're on board.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and my poor Steve Stewart, who was my boyfriend at the time, he's in the middle. He's a guest. He doesn't know what to do. He just is like. So finally, a day later, when we're still miserable and we still aren't stopping at islands, my mother comes on board and she's on board for the mutiny. And she's like, Gordon, right?
Yeah.
She's like, Gordon, take us to San Juan, Puerto Rico. He does.
Out of nowhere?
He turns the boat. He drops us off with our luggage, just without
Yeah. This is short notice.
And it won't even say goodbye to my mom. Furious at my mother. Won't make eye contact. So, but Steve Stewart, my boyfriend at the time, stayed
on the boat.
He stayed. He stayed because he thought it would be like ingracious to leave.
That makes sense. I don't. Yeah, course, that's a good.
Right?
I understand the perspective, but I don't know. Yeah, I'd be on the fence too. Honestly.
Well, so then we're in San Juan. We turn around.
Were you mad at him? Were you mad at Steve?
Kind of, but I couldn't really be. He was in a horrible position. You know what I mean?
True.
I mean, I think at the time I was, but it didn't last because I felt bad for him.
Okay.
So then we turn around and a customs official is like, "Where are your papers? Did you have any approval to land here?"
Uh-huh.
And my mother is like, "Well, we're here. What do we do now? The boat's gone. We're here now."
We're here. We have to stand in the water?
And because because the guy didn't know what to do, he's like, all right, come on. I mean, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It would not fly now. So then we go in San Juan, we fly to Antigua.
Oh, okay.
And of course, I think we spent the night in San Juan. Right. And the next day we flew to Antigua. And of course, right after we left, Gordon stopped at like 4 different islands.
Why?
Just to piss us off, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he knew that he would get the intel from Steve.
Yeah. Because it's like just to prove how stupid we were. So that is my nightmare story that started out as a pleasure cruise and ended up with a mutiny.
Yeah, that's so long. I've never been on a boat for that long. The longest I've been is like 2 nights, and I hated that.
No,
can't do that. No.
What kind of a boat? Was it a big boat, little boat?
It was like it was like, honestly, it's like it was because my mom. Yeah, like in the Philippines, we have over 7,000 islands. My mom lived on one of those islands. And to get to that island, you have to take a ferry, which is 2 nights overnight. And in the ferry is not like some luxurious ferry. It's like a not fun ferry,
Yeah,
and
they call it the
not
fun ferry.
Yeah, exactly. It's, it's a third world country ferry. That's what it is. So it's not, and it's like there's no, it's like just a bunch of bunk beds on a ship,
Oh man.
And it was not fun. Getting to my mom's island is fun, but the whole trip there It's not fun.
Right.
Because you can put the car on there. So I would just stay in the car and just lay in the car.
And is it huge? Is it one of those big ferries? It's really big?
It's kind of big. It's like the Staten Island ferry. It's like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like that, yeah. But the crazy thing about that ferry is that it's sunk like multiple times. Not that ferry, but then that line sunk multiple times. Man,
really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah. But none of us will take a seaplane because we're too scared.
Oh, a plane that lands in the lands on the
yeah.
I took a helicopter once. It was scary.
Really?
I didn't like it.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to take a helicopter.
No. It was. I thought it would be fun. No, it was just scary. I didn't like it at all. It felt too precarious.
Yeah.
You know, you're like just in this little bubble, and when it takes off, then it can go. It really like zooms right down. You're like, oh. No, didn't like it.
It's definitely not as safe as an airplane.
No.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, so that's my story. That's a good one, right?
Yeah,
I've often thought it would make a great screenplay.
It would.
At one point, yeah. Gordon actually had a shotgun. He brought a shotgun because we were going close to where drug smugglers were because it was near past Miami and past Cuba and right. Yeah. And so in case we tried to get hijacked by drug smugglers, he brought a gun. And at one point, my brother Dick was like, "Look, Gordon's asleep. I say we steal his shotgun and we make him take us to Puerto Rico." We wake him up and we're like, "Gordon, hey, take us to Puerto Rico. And you're dead." That's how desperate we were.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's so funny.
I know. It's a good story. It was a nightmare, but it's a good story. So, okay. So for next week, well, I feel like what happened to Neesha and Kyle is that they did some digging. They looked around, Kyle's process was slower, but sort of like their entire world view toppled. Right? Oh,
yeah. Way of life.
Yeah. So, right? What what you thought was true wasn't true, right? So if you've got a story, it doesn't necessarily have to be, leaving a religion or a cult but just having something happen in your life where you realize, what you thought was true isn't true, like on a profound level.
Yeah. It's like leaving a community.
Leaving a community. Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard.
That's a good one.
Very
hard.
Because the whole point of a community is to feel as if you're in a community, and when you leave that, you're alone.
Yeah. So. Right. What's your support like? And that's what Kyle was saying. One of the things he wants to gain in the next year is community because.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're social creatures by nature, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Not all of us. Some people are perfectly happy being by themselves, which is fine. Yeah. I don't judge it. I think that, So yeah, I like that. That's a good one. So guys, if you just listened to Neesha and Kyle and you didn't listen to part 1, please do. If you didn't listen to Chase's story, which is hysterical, listen. And rate, review, and subscribe. You can comment below if you're watching us on YouTube, and you can contact us. You can DM us on Instagram at Losing It Podcast. You can tweet us. We have a TikTok account. And did I forget anything? Every week I ask.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay, good.
Everything's in the links. If you're watching this on YouTube, links are in the description below.
Links in the description below. This is the first time you've told me this.
It's the second time I've told you this. That's why you point down, and Heidi's always like, "Why are you pointing at your vagina?"
Well, I'm so glad that you did bring up Heidi and vagina, because an episode would not be complete without that. The links are below. I was always pointing because I wanted them to comment. I didn't know the links were below. Links below, guys. Okay. All right. So there you go. All right. So I think we've done it. And I think the only last thing to say is don't poop in the ocean. right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Ronnie. See you
Did
guys.
you poop in the ocean on that boat?
Not directly. I indirectly pooped in the ocean.
There's a toilet. Because it's 5 days.
I indirectly pooped in the ocean. Yes, I did.
Okay. All right.
Busted.
I didn't mean to stop the
Yes, you did.
outro.
Yes, you did. All right.
I was curious. All right.
All right, guys. Bye. Losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it, losing it. You came and you listened to the story. I hope so much that it didn't make you sorry, and I hope so much that you'll come back again.
Losing It, hosted by Nelsie Spencer. Produced by me, Ronnie Whaley. Theme song by Hunter Williams. Follow us online on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all podcasting platforms at Losing It Podcast. Viewers can email Nelsie with questions or comments about life, writing, comedy, or even your own Losing It story for a chance to be on the Losing It Podcast at losingitcontact@gmail.com. For everything Nelsie and everything Losing It, visit us at nelsiespencer.com.